So we're on Narndee station. This is a couple of stations together. It's Narndee and Boodinoo in the southern rangelands of Western Australia. So we're about 5.5 hours from Perth. I was a scientist for the CSIRO many years ago in the Rangelands and Savannas Research Unit, and I was a biologist in a mix of agronomists and pastoral specialists and social science scientists, and we did a lot of work on how to manage land sustainably. But we did the research, but we found there's a huge gap with implementation, and that's often because of the way land is financed and the way that it's framed inside our economic structures. So over the years, I figured there's got to be a way to tackle that. And I worked in private business. I spent about 22 years in sub-Saharan Africa. I worked across most of Australia. All the while thinking there's got to be a way to solve this problem. So that's kind of been a preoccupation of mine for many, many years. The purpose of Forever Wild is to redefine our relationship with land and nature so that we can continue, our economic demands and everything we need to do, our livelihoods and communities can be successful, but in a new way with land, so we can sustain and repair the ecology of this planet. The basic premise is we have one planet, so we have to figure this out. And what we do is we acquire land, but we also co-manage land. So other people might own it. We bring in that model and restructure the values of that landscape to, ideally, to increase its economic value while repairing the natural capital. Well, we chose the southern rangelands because this place is spectacular. We mapped out key locations across the continent to where we'd really like to start. And for us to really prove the model, we needed three things. We needed an industry that was in existence that we could sort of fit into. And we wanted, strong cultural heritage. And we wanted to do it in a landscape which was largely ecologically intact, which met our goals of being able to have scale, ecological scale, and incredible biodiversity. And so this landscape in the southern rangelands of Western Australia, and I was stunned that this isn't, one of our, golden eggs of the Australian landscape, because it is just remarkable. We have walked this landscape and explored and just we found new species that have gone to the West Australian Museum for description. We found cultural heritage sites, both from early European settlement, rock art sites from indigenous people who lived in these landscapes. And all of these things are here in this one place. And then we have this incredible scenery and huge mulga woodlands and diverse land systems, and we can produce food here. So for us, this was really, it was a fantastic case study to be able to try and put it all together. I mean, the landscape of the southern rangelands is 535,000 square kilometers. I think that's like 6.9% of Australia. And if we can show that that scale can be done in a truly sustainable way, then there's a model there that we can transfer not only in other parts of Australia, but other parts of the world, and really become a world leader.
Forever Wild's plan is to zoom out a bit on how we look at landscape, how we can use it for producing food, and also how we can use it for lots of different reasons. We can use it for social benefits for the local community. We can use it for such as tourism. With all of the different aspects that Forever Wild have planned, they want that the revenue raised from those ventures feeding back into preserving the land.
So pastoralism is a very common activity, economic activity worldwide. And my view is that unless we can find a way to continue the industries that exist sustainably, then we're going to be at loggerheads the whole time. And, it's very easy to dismiss an industry that produces food. It's very easy to say, well, it'd be more sustainable if we didn't do it. I'm not of that view. I'm actually of the view that, we look at pastoralists, they range from families living out here in very remote outback Australia to Nilotic tribes in sub-Saharan Africa to, communities in South America. They're all pastoralists. And it's not so much a question of whether or not we produce meat in these landscapes, it's how we do it. And we've known for many, many years, both with traditional knowledge and with wide-ranging science, that the production of food, production of red meat in these landscapes, and conservation is very possible. The challenge is getting financiers and banks and investors to understand that the dynamics of land don't necessarily match their demands on a year-to-year basis. So when we look at sustainability, really sustainability is it's people, it's nature, and it's economics. And I think if we try and disaggregate that and ignore one of those components, then we do so at our own peril, because ultimately they all have to function successfully.
Most models that we've sort of looked at in the past, some work quite well, especially from the grazing industry. We've got some very good graziers out there, but even some of the best have still found them stuck from time to time, and because they've only got that one avenue, then it's usually the land that suffers. Some of the best graziers out there, it's still very hard to say sell the entire herd when they've had, they may have spent decades perfecting a breed suited for their land, and it's a very hard decision and often a very emotional decision. We're looking at having the ability to make those hard choices for a hard landscape and keep all the avenues going, even when there's droughts and even when there's hard times.
I see a future where we, as a group of pastoralists coming from different backgrounds, come together to demonstrate that we can produce food while maintaining this huge scale of ecological infrastructure. I call it ecological infrastructure, the trees, the rivers, the biological diversity, the geomorphology, and so we can do so without clearing it, without destroying it. Not only that, I see ultimately, and we're working on this very actively now, we actually see that the food that's produced here will ultimately generate a premium. Because I think that people want more from their food. They want to be able to confirm that this food has been produced in a way which is sensitive to our planet. And we can do that here. And I'm convinced that when the industry matures a little bit and we come together with all of our ideas, that we can make that happen. So my feeling of Narndee Station is, Narndee and Boondanoo stations are just beautiful. They're beautiful, wonderful places that range from, a form of paradise after we've had good winter rains where there's just wildflowers as far as you can see to the horizon, to this, harsh, hot, dry, dusty landscape that makes you wonder how all the species ultimately survive. And it's intriguing to me and fascinating, to stand up on some of those breakaways and look as far as you can see to the horizon. You don't see any lights, you don't see the roads, you see nothing except nature. And this place is very special.